Her own husband sold her body like a gambling chip. Curtis Rourke didn't just betray Abigail Lane. He dragged her into the mud of his debts, treating her not as a wife but as a piece of meat to be thrown on the table. In their bedroom, the room that once held promises of marriage, he shoved her down, his breath thick with whiskey. "You ain't my wife anymore," he hissed. "You're my payment, tonight. You'll settle my debt." The door swung open. The creditor stepped inside, his grin crooked, his stench of liquor filling the air. He yanked Abigail by the hair, ripping away the last strip of fabric that clung to her. Her tears didn't fall. They froze in her eyes, trapped by shock. She was treated like livestock, handed over without mercy, the walls closed in with the smell of smoke and sweat. Every sound sharpened into cruelty. His voice pressed against her face. "You're mine now. Paid for and owned." But fate left her one weapon. Near the fireplace, an iron poker leaned against the stone. Its metal gleamed faintly in the dim light. Her hand shot out. Her scream tore through the air as she swung with all the desperation left in her. The crack echoed like thunder. Blood sprayed across the sheets, hot and wild. His body dropped to the floor, twitching once before falling still. Abigail froze, chest heaving, iron slick with blood in her grip. Had she killed him? She didn't know. She didn't wait. Panic ripped through her body. She stumbled for the door, naked, trembling, clutching nothing but a splintered board from a broken crate to cover herself. The desert night greeted her like a blade. Cold wind slashed against bare skin, and stones and thorns tore her feet until blood traced every step. Still, she ran, behind her. The house burned in her memory. A husband who betrayed her, a stranger who tried to break her, a pool of blood that might belong to a corpse. She didn't look back. To look back meant death. She ran across miles of sand and rock, body breaking, lungs burning. Her breath came ragged, her mind spinning with the pounding of her heart. At last, she collapsed near a dry stone well on the edge of a lonely ranch. Through blurred vision, she saw a man, broad shoulders, gray at the temples, the face of someone who had seen more winters than joy. She scrambled, pressing the wooden board to her chest, her voice breaking into a scream. Don't pull it away." The man didn't touch her. He didn't speak right away. He simply pulled the shirt from his own back and draped it over her shaking shoulders. His voice came low, steady, the kind of voice that carried through gunfire and storms. "Ain't nobody hurting you no more, darling." In that moment, Abigail's world shifted. The night didn't feel so cruel. The desert didn't feel so endless, but the question clawed at her chest and hung in the air for the listener. Had she truly killed a man back in that room, or was someone already on her trail, ready to drag her back into hell? The ranch house was quiet that night, the kind of quiet where you can hear the fire crackle and the coyotes sing somewhere far off. Abigail lay on a small cot, Elijah's shirt still hanging loose on her shoulders, the smell of wood smoke clinging to the fabric. For the first time in days, her body wasn't running, but her mind was still racing. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the poker swing down, saw the blood splash across the wall. In the dark, her chest heaved, and she sat bolt upright, her hands grabbed at the blanket, eyes wide, breath broken. "I killed him. I killed him. God forgive me." The cry shattered the silence of the old house. The tin cup by her bed rattled and spilled, water soaking into the floorboards. Elijah stepped in from the other room. He didn't rush. He didn't scold. He just stood there for a moment, the firelight drawing hard lines on his weathered face. Abigail's words tumbled out like stones rolling down a hill. "I didn't mean to. I just wanted him off me. There was blood everywhere. Too much blood. I can't remember if he moved. I can't remember if he breathed. Did I kill him? Did I?" Her sobs came hard, shaking her small frame. She buried her face in her hands, waiting for judgment, waiting for the weight of condemnation. But Elijah didn't raise his voice. He didn't throw Bible verses or call her a sinner. He knelt down, slow, steady, until his eyes were level with hers. "Sometimes," he said, his tone low and even, "surviving don't make you guilty." Abigail blinked through her tears, stunned by the calm in his voice. He wasn't excusing her, but he wasn't condemning her either. His words settled over her like a blanket warmer than the shirt she wore. Her breath came softer. She lifted her eyes, searching his face for anger, but found none. For the first time in years, someone looked at her without disgust, without demands, without shame. Outside, the desert night deepened. Inside, the soft glow of a kerosene lamp washed over her face, showing a young woman caught between horror and relief. The guilt gnawed at her, but Elijah's quiet presence dulled the sharpest edges. She whispered, almost too soft to hear, "What if he's still alive out there? What if he comes for me?" Elijah's gaze didn't waver. "Then you ain't facing it alone." The words hung heavy, carrying more promise than she could understand in that moment. Her tears slowed, and for the first time since she fled, her body leaned into the silence instead of fighting it. But deep inside, the question remained. Was the man she struck lying dead in that house, or was he still breathing, bleeding, and hunting her trail across the desert even now? The peace of Elijah's ranch shattered the next morning. The thud of boots hit the porch, and the door burst open without a knock. Curtis Rourke filled the doorway, red-eyed and snarling, the husband who had betrayed her, the man who traded Abigail like a pile of debt. He crossed the room in 2 strides, his hand tangling in her hair, yanking her back. "You're my wife," he shouted. "You're coming home with me, filthy or not." Abigail cried out, clutching Elijah's shirt tighter to her chest. Her eyes darted toward Elijah, the only anchor left in her storm. The old rancher rose slowly from his chair. He didn't rush. He didn't raise his voice, but there was weight in the scrape of wood against the floor, in the heavy steps that carried him forward. Curtis pulled back his hand to strike, but before it could land, Elijah's arm reached high above the fireplace, pulling down a pistol older than both of them, a relic from war, still loaded, still true, the barrel leveled steady, and Elijah's words cut the air clean. "You lay another hand on her," he said, "and I swear to God I'll wipe out the Rourke name tonight." Curtis froze, his hand trembled in the air, rage turning into hesitation. Elijah's eyes told him there would be no bluff, no mercy. Curtis shoved Abigail aside, stumbling back toward the door. His voice cracked with fury as he spat, "This ain't over, old man." Then he was gone. The door slammed shut, leaving silence behind. Abigail stood shaken, tears streaming, her breath broken. Elijah lowered the pistol, set it gently back on the mantel, and turned away. No gloating, no speech, just a man who had drawn a line and would not cross it again. Abigail whispered, voice fragile, "You saved me again." Elijah poured her a glass of water, slid it across the table, and sat down in the same chair, quiet as before. "Now, folks, take a breath with me. Maybe pour yourself a cup of tea, lean back, and let this story sink in. And while you're here, tell me in the comments what time it is where you are and where you're listening from. I'd love to know. And if you don't want to miss what happens next, go ahead and hit that subscribe. It's quick, it's free, and it keeps you right here with us when the next chapter lands, because Curtis Rourke wasn't finished, and the law itself was about to ride into Elijah's ranch. The morning sun cast long shadows across the ranch when Curtis Rourke came back. But this time, he wasn't alone. Dust trailed behind him as another rider followed close. The badge of a sheriff glinting on his chest, Abigail froze when she saw the lawman. Her stomach sank. Was this it? Was she about to be dragged back, labeled as nothing more than her husband's property? Elijah stepped onto the porch, calm as ever, his eyes narrowing. He knew the man riding behind Curtis, Sheriff Jeb Crowley, years ago, in the mud and smoke of Cold Harbor. Elijah had pulled Jeb from the dirt with a bullet in his side. Jeb had looked into Elijah's eyes that day and swore he would never forget. Now here they stood, on opposite sides of a dusty ranch yard, the weight of memory heavy between them. Curtis wasted no time. He jabbed a finger toward Abigail. "That's my wife. She ran off and this old fool is keeping her. Arrest him. Bring her home." Abigail clutched the shirt tighter around her body, fear and fury mingling in her chest. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "He sold me. He sold me for a debt." The words cracked the air like a whip. Curtis's face turned red with anger, but the sheriff's gaze didn't move from Elijah. Jeb Crowley sat tall in his saddle, his voice steady. I remember Cold Harbor. I remember who dragged me out when the Rebs were ready to finish me. That man right there. He pointed to Elijah. I owe him my life, and I ain't about to forget it for a drunk who trades his wife for cards. Curtis sputtered, tried to argue, but Jeb's hand rested on the butt of his revolver. And the message was clear. This wasn't going his way. Jeb turned his horse slightly, his eyes burning into Curtis. A man who sells his wife don't own her anymore. Touch her again and I'll bury you myself. Silence followed, broken only by the sound of Curtis's boots shifting in the dirt. For the first time, the gambler looked smaller, weaker, as though all his bluster had been stripped away. Abigail stood taller. She wasn't just a victim anymore. The law, for once, was on her side. Jeb gave Elijah a small nod. You keep her safe. The law won't trouble you here with that. The sheriff wheeled his horse and rode off, leaving Curtis in a cloud of dust and shame. Curtis glared once more, but there was nothing left for him to say. He climbed onto his horse and followed the sheriff out, beaten in a way no cards could undo. Abigail watched them go, her heart pounding, her chest tight with something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Inside the ranch, Elijah returned to his chair, poured himself a cup of black coffee, and said nothing at all, but Abigail's eyes glistened with gratitude. For the first time, she wasn't chained by fear. Yet the desert has a way of keeping secrets. And as the wind whistled across the ranch, Abigail's heart whispered a question she couldn't silence. Would she ever truly be free, or had she only borrowed time before fate demanded its due? The days that followed moved slower than the desert sun. Abigail stayed at Elijah's ranch, her bare feet finding the worn boards of the porch, her hands learning the rhythm of chores she'd never done before. Feeding chickens, carrying buckets of water, stacking firewood. At first, her body shook with every sound outside, every rider passing in the distance, but each evening, Elijah's steady presence kept the shadows from swallowing her whole. He never asked for her story again. He never demanded anything at all. He simply gave her space. And in that silence, she found pieces of herself returning. Some nights she laughed softly, the sound surprising even her own ears. Other nights, she would look at Elijah across the table and see not just a man, but a safe harbor, the kind she had thought did not exist. Yet deep inside, fear still whispered. Curtis's threats, the memory of blood on the floor, the thought of eyes watching her from the darkness. She could not let Elijah carry that danger. One night, with the desert wind scratching at the windows, she sat by candlelight and wrote a few lines on a torn piece of paper. Her hand trembled, but her words were steady. You saved me, Elijah. But if I stay, he might come for you too. I'll return when I'm no longer a danger to you. She folded the note, placed it on the table, and laid his old shirt neatly beside it. Then she stepped out into the night, her figure swallowed once more by the desert horizon. When Elijah found the note the next morning, he didn't chase after her. He sat down in silence, the shirt across his lap. The candle burned low. His weathered hands gripped the fabric as if holding on to more than cloth, and with a voice no louder than the wind, he said, She came to me with nothing, and somehow left me with everything. Her absence filled the house more than her presence ever could. But in that emptiness was a reminder that even broken lives can spark light in another soul. Now, friend, let me pause the story here. What do you take from it? Do you believe survival makes someone guilty, or does it make them stronger? If you saw a woman like Abigail running barefoot through the desert, would you stop your horse too? Stories like this remind us that kindness can change the course of a life, that even a stranger can stand between despair and hope. And sometimes the most powerful love is the kind that never speaks its name. If this story touched you, give it a like so more folks can hear it. And if you want more tales from the wild frontier, where grit meets grace, go ahead and subscribe. That way you will be here with us when the next story rides in. Now tell me in the comments, where are you listening from and what time is it where you are right now? I would love to know. Because stories are never just about the past. They live on in the people who hear them. Maybe today, that person is you.